Well, it's 7 o'clock and I guess we'll start. This is the March 18th meeting, 2025 of the Bristol Planning Commission. And call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. First order of business that's not in here, I'd like to welcome our newest Planning Commission member, Ellen Repstadt. She was appointed by the select board like a week ago, so she's still soaking it all in.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So,
My name is Slim.
oh yes, I'm sorry, let's go around the table. and
Yeah, I don't know.
Introduce ourselves. I'm Kevin Hansen. I'm currently the chair
Okay.
by default. Is that the right way?
It's impossible to keep that going any longer almost.
I thought
What?
you got voted in, like right when I started.
Yeah. Oh, we'll just keep going.
Shannon Hill. Shannon, yeah, okay.
Rob.
Rob.
Easy.
Easy.
And then on Zoom, we have John
Moyers, hi.
and then Melissa.
Hi, welcome. I'm on my phone, so you really don't want to see me through that.
Okay.
And then-
I own the bookstore there on the corner, Recycled
Yep.
Reading, yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. So we'll jump to the next item, which is review the agenda. I'd like to add a D to administrative matters titled the organizational meeting. Is there any other additions, omissions, changes to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll proceed. Next item is public comment. Do we have any public comment?
Jim,
Hi, guys. I just want to commend all of you for the great job you've done. And AZ's guidance has really come along really well. And good luck and thanks a lot for what you do.
thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Okay, and that will bring us to our next item of the agenda, which is a continuing business. The proposed interim EV charger. rates.
And I did put it late into the folder. I apologize. I was hammering it out with Ian and Chris today. But I'm very excited about this. Feel very confident about. We're feeling like finally narrowing in on what I got for y'all. Oh, that's not the presentation. That's the PDF. I'll give you a little feedback before I jump into this. I've been working on an interim bylaw proposal to fill a slight gap in the zoning regulations where the town received a grant to put in some fast charging electric vehicle charging systems in. And under the current regulations, that would not be possible.
I see.
So proposing an interim bylaw to not miss an opportunity in Bristol for some really cool economic development, and for a project that really aligns with the Bristol energy plan. And this is now the third iteration that I've given to the PC. All right, given that, let me share my screen so everyone on Zoom can see. All right. People on Zoom, can you see it as a presentation and not? You can see it as a presentation, great. All right, so looking at what the feedback was from the previous meetings, a big focus on private versus public use, and then also nomenclature, getting consistent with the wording. The other feedback on here are from the previous meetings. So just kind of keeping a running tally of what your feedback was and making sure that gets addressed. This first slide shows the Starksboro level 2 electric vehicle charging station that they have located behind their town offices. I drive past this every day. and this image is from Google Maps. Did not get time to stop by, but just wanted to throw this in here to show also what Starksboro did for EVs and their regulations. And these two images are from their use matrix, and they broke it out into residential and commercial uses as well, kind of similar to what we had been talking about in the previous meetings. I really thought this was kind of what we were trying to focus in on, and wanted to include this in here just to show that another town, our neighbor, was doing something similar. Moving forward, getting a definition down for electric vehicle charging stations. I know in previous iterations I used facilities. I moved it back to stations after a conversation with Ian. Electric vehicle charging station is the term used throughout other zoning regulations. It's the name that is most commonly used throughout the state, other municipalities, simply electric vehicle language. This definition is simple, but captures the most important parts of what we're defining here. And then at the very end, I have a smaller definition within the bigger definition. And I did this because it was a point in the last meeting that we were getting too into the jargon of electric vehicles and into the levels and different charging definitions. And I wanted to try to take a definition that really simply puts it right there. However, I did work up some additional definitions that if we wanted to get a little bit more nitty gritty with what charging levels are, there's two options we could do. We could go with going with the level 1, 2, 3. These are definitions that I used. A regional planning commission had a guideline and they had definitions in there that were very lengthy and got really into like how much little amp volume each EV was presenting or providing. And so I used that along with some other definitions that Kevin provided me to simplify and kind of get down to like the most important aspect. And then the bottom element is definitions that if we didn't want to use EV language, we can simply call it a household versus a commercial and separate it based off that. I do think that we should use just a simple definition to make it clear. And then moving forward, still keeping the exemption here. And this would be if I decided if the decision is to move forward with making the language very clear on levels. If the definition, the first definition I gave is what goes forward, then the exemption would have to be reworked. But still trying to keep that level 1, the very like simple EV charger, the one that gets sent home from the manufacturer with you, as exempt as it is simply a power cord that you plug into the wall. There isn't really any structure or facility that would impact folks. I did add in here that any exempted charging equipment shall not be used for public use or for fee collection. Just a further kind of safeguard there of you can't set up a level 1, come on over to my house and stay here for a while and I'll get some money, and wanting to make sure that that was covered there. Keeping from the previous iterations and the similar format here of it would be in addition to Article 6, the conditions attaching to specific uses. The first bullet here is requirements for all electric vehicle charging stations, and these would apply to if it's at a home, if it's at a parking lot, if it's at a vehicle service station. These are to apply to all of them. When I talked with Chris as a firefighter, he really agreed with the third point here of shall comply with any required state permits and or code requirements. We don't want someone putting a electric vehicle charging station at their home garage and not having the proper electrical work done and then a fire starting. So covering safety, and then also the floodplain regulations. We wouldn't want a EVs at Sycamore Park to be put in and then a flood comes and we lose infrastructure there. So that's for all EVs, safety and protection of the equipment and infrastructure was the focus here. And then moving into breaking it out into uses, focusing on an accessory use for residential dwellings, and this has a couple conditions or criteria. Fee collection and private use and public use of the charger is prohibited. If it's a residential, it's a residential. You cannot have more than 2 at a location. I put it as 2 because I was thinking of an apartment building that might have 6 units. They might want 2 chargers. Maybe not, that seems like a lot, but they might request that. And then keeping it so that level 3 chargers are not for residential use. And those would be prohibited as an accessory use. And then moving into conditional use, this is where we get into the public, might be for a fee, might just be for public use. These would constitute a conditional use in all the districts and that they're allowed. I'll show that on the next slide with the use matrix. Some conditions here as well. Charging stations cannot have more than 6 equipment stations, which that can change as well. And then the last 2 are again safety criteria, making sure that the charging cord itself is going to be able to reach wherever you put it on the car, so we don't have to worry about car damage. And then lastly, if applicant is proposing to put signage for their EV charging station, that it conforms with the manual uniform traffic control devices standards, again for safety, and that way someone can't just put up like a little piece of paper that's laminated that says charge here. We want things to be following the safety regulations. And lastly, addition to matrix, anywhere where a residential dwelling unit is allowed, pretty much, except for conservation. I left out open to putting that back on there, but kind of one of those things where I wanted to hear some feedback on. If you,
Even for the level 1, you're saying you X out conservation homes?
well, level 1 would be the exemption. So if a level 1 at a conservation home,
That's okay.
but also could be permitted for conservation as well. It's just one I wanted to gauge some feedback on.
Okay.
And then for the conditional uses, in village business, ROC, village mixed, commercial, and RI1, again, as I explained in the previous iteration of this, I think having the ability to utilize the Bristol General Store as a location if they wanted to put chargers there, that's a great location. It's on a state highway. That would be a place where you would want to have people who are driving constantly be able to charge. And that's my presentation. Really tried to slim it down, focus on what your feedback was from the previous iterations, remove a lot of the kind of in-depth jargon, so it's not only applicable to now, but also if the technology changes next year and all of a sudden we have level 5 chargers. Yeah, a little bit shorter, a bit sweeter. Any questions?
Any comments?
Well, that sounds good. Now, you just brought up level 5, but there's no level 5 in these, so that would take a rewrite. of some
Well,
sort.
Yeah, if that would be if we were using the definitions here of like getting into the nitty gritty, but also here, this definition, varying voltage. So if a level 5 did come in,
Yeah.
it would just be
So
based
the
on,
question, should we put in the 1, 2, 3s at all? maybe, or no?
That's kind of the why I put it in there is I wanted some feedback on on which definitions felt sufficient. If this definition of electric vehicle charging station felt complete, or at least it captures enough, or if having further definitions and categories of chargers would be beneficial. I would like to say that with the interim bylaw, it is for a year, so after the year, if it's like clearly this needs to be rewrote, it can be, or if it worked, it can continue on. Or if it is something that we're like, actually, no one's using EVs anymore, we can just let it lie. It's interim, it's not forever, it can be adapted as needed or kind of as a test run of, oh wow, this actually really did help. We've seen an increase in foot traffic downtown. These people are charging at the level 3 chargers the town got the grant for. If that, does that answer your question, Slim?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In general, yeah.
Cool. I don't know if level 5 is coming, but
Well, what was it today? BYD has one that can do like 1,000 in they're gonna fill your car in 5 minutes.
1000 kW.
I feel like the car might explode.
But batteries don't like that, I thought, but that speed or something, it's like.
Sell more batteries.
Anybody
Business
else?
model, okay.
So I'm in favor of leaving because of this side conversation. And leaving out the definitions of levels and trying to stay out of that. As much as we can. So I would be in favor of a more general definition like this, which then of course the table that you just showed us would need to be updated to reflect this nomenclature instead.
Yeah.
But I don't know how we avoid all of the definitions of the different levels and still provide an exemption for level 1, unless it's just, we don't worry about defining it and just say chargers of blank capacity are exempt at the end, you know, without getting into level 1, 2, 3.
Anybody else on Zoom?
John?
Yeah, I appreciate the refinements that you're adding to this over time, and I think it shows the thought. It does, I think, address the concerns you've heard, so I appreciate that. Since I've just seen it tonight, I did check right before the meeting. It wasn't up, but I don't know, 15 or 20 minutes before, so I'm just seeing this for the first time. And as you've added the detail, it gives more to pay attention to, so there's a little bit more to look at, you know what I mean? So I'd like to look at this a little longer before any action on it tonight, but basically sleep on it. But I do like the direction of it. And in the interim, I did think of one thing that we could consider adding that might give a little bit more definition and cover my concerns, which is there are people who are like, they're not commercial or public. They might be running a fleet. They might have 5 or 15 or who knows, 25 vehicles, whatever, at some point. And that wouldn't be open for the public, so it wouldn't be covered that way. But it would be a rather large installation, and there would be presumably associated activity coming and going with that, with any kind of fleet activity. So I just want to see, I want to think on how we might cover that. It might be as simple as adding the word fleet in there at the appropriate location. I don't know. On Rob's comment, I'm kind of with him. I don't want to get into the level 1, 2, 3 insofar as we don't have to, but if we have to a little bit, just say sort of better define, you know, the household single use thing. That's one of the things I think is easy about this, which is somebody wants to put one of these at home. We're going to have very little say about it, and we should have very little say about it, as long as it's safe and appropriate, whatever that means. But that's an easy one. It gets more complex when you think about banks of them, whether it's 3 or 6 or 36, you know. Last random comment that I can come up with, I was trying to pay attention to your presentation, so I didn't make notes, which is kind of why I want to sleep on it a little bit. But in a couple of places, there were limits, like I think it was 6 or something like that. I want to think about that because, you know, hey, I think we should be open. If somebody comes in and says, we have a 12 bank, essentially gas station for electric vehicles, I want to be able to consider that in the appropriate places, you know. So I wouldn't want to have a limit like that, that might pinch that proposition. So I just want to pay attention to that. I don't know what the resolution is, but I think you get my drift. Anyway, thanks for continuing to work on it. I think it's like, this feels like the beginning of a final proposition. I have one more comment, which is, I'm not sure I'm in favor of passing it in some maybe not perfect form as a 1-year thing, because as we all know, whatever rules are in place when an application comes in, those are the rules that play in the zoning process. So I would want to be very careful about tempting fate if we don't feel the bases are covered before we put anything on the books. That's just a sort of basic caution. Anyway, enough from me. Thanks.
Izzy, can you get the people on Zoom back up on the screen?
Oh. Sorry, I removed them online.
I had a question.
Go ahead.
So this needs to be put through and put in place before the town can put a charging station in?
For the level 3, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because that's
Um,
that's the one they were gonna put in, right? They got the grant to,
Do level 3.
yeah. I mean, it seems to me if we could maybe just give it one more go around and implement it, because I'm sorry, but I think it's insane that Starksboro has a charging station and Bristol does not. We need to get this done. We really do. Yeah, we want to be careful, but we really need to buckle down and get it done so we can get a charging station in here. At
Yeah.
least one.
Something I will say is just a reminder to the planning commission. The interim bylaw is approved by the select board. And I have been coming here to get your feedback because I want your feedback, and your feedback is very important to me. And also important to the bylaws and the regulations. But the select board is the one who makes the final decision on if this even is an interim bylaw. And I hope to bring this to the select board sooner than later.
I would suggest as a point of order though, that maybe next meeting, I don't know what the agenda looks like, is to have an action.
Okay.
And that way, you know, the select board will be sensitive to us having made an action.
Okay.
Or not, I guess.
And that way I can also come back to y'all with just like one final.
Anybody else?
I'm cool with that. I would just ask AZ that we have it in enough time, whatever the final version is. Like
It was, I
maybe
put it in
7
the,
days in advance.
yeah.
Thank you.
So I have a few comments if, let me see where, so I'm a little bit hung up on the level 1, level 2, level 3, because they are industry standards. And they will change over time, but I'm not sure how quickly they will change. You know, you mentioned BYD having 1,000 kW charge rate. That will probably still be a level 3 type of arrangement where you got this big substation and a charging pedestal, if you will, and you know, it's you know, just the amount of power going through it's going to change. I think it's important that we at least define, and maybe we don't have to do it with levels, but we at least define what is commonly called a level 2 charger that's used residentially or in minor applications like places of employment. Municipal parking lots, we've charged in the library at Waterbury, for instance, and I don't want to have such a broad, my opinion, I don't think we should have such a broad definition that all of a sudden that stuff becomes part of the debate. I think we need to clearly look, and I think our concern is what we're commonly call level 3 chargers, and make sure that we've captured what that group can consist of and will consist of. I mean, if they get faster, blah, 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 and they become a level 5, well, it's all more than a level 3. So I'm a little nervous that we have just a single generic paragraph. If you look at the additional definitions, and maybe it's just a matter of integrating some of that language into your generalized definition and saying that residential is for something up to 240 volts, 48 amp, 40 or 80 amps current. Anything above that is commercial, or something like that.
Mhm.
And I would add single phase with that 240 volts too. I mean, that's an important parameter. So I think that's important. I think it's important that, and I'm struggling with having somebody in a residential situation have to get a permit to put one in at their house, which is the way it's laid out right now. So I struggle with that a little bit. And then where's the line with that? I think single family, what we call single family / duplex now. I'm not sure what we want from those people that would require them to get a permit and go through the permit process. Multifamily, I don't know, maybe not, that could be a fence setter. And then I get it, commercial stuff. It seems like these stations go either to those huge, what are they, Buc-ee's or whatever type gas stations, or most of them are centered around retail outlets, Walmart in particular, and to some lesser degree at auto dealerships. So I think, we need to consider those 2 installation points for level 3. But, and then there's this gray area about the minimal impact, like at work or multifamily or whatever, and that could go either way, I guess. My opinion is it should just be allowed, not have to require a permit. But I think the level 1 or the level, what we currently call level 2 in a single family residential situation, I'm not sure why we want what benefit that is to have a permit, The comment about limiting, at first I looked at the limit of 6. Where was that? Limiting no more than 6 on a commercial application. And I'm like, why would we want to do that? But then again, I've got some experience, not a ton, but I don't think I've been anywhere. And we've gone as far as Southwest Pennsylvania, Boston, and then as well as around in New England. I don't think I've seen more than 4 at any of these commercial installations. Some of them had 2 connectors, so maybe that's 8, I don't know, but I'm not sure that's the end of the world if we restrict that.
I interrupt just.
Sure.
Because you're going with this 1, 2, 3, so why would a kind of residential person put in a phase 3 or a 10, or I don't care, for their personal use? Isn't it that the division of personal use versus a commercial use?
So you mean a person, if a person wanted to put a level 3 in, is that what you're asking?
I'm not very cognizant, I
So-
don't really know about these things, but
Okay.
why not?
So a level 3 charger, anything that has that amount of power, has a pad mount transformer in a cage. So all you see when you drive up with your car is that tower
Right.
where you plug it in.
I've seen those.
But if you look in back of it, there's a chain link fence with no see-through stuff.
Oh, okay.
And there is a pad mount transformer, and then there's another control cabinet in there. So that is the stuff that we're concerned about, where it's gonna go.
Okay.
And then that stuff shows up when you have more than the 240 volt single phase, 40 to 50 amp service
Level
type
two?
thing. Those are like level 2, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then the ones that are being proposed over Mountain View
Yeah.
are like that. There will be the, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there will be the stand where you have the plug.
Yeah.
And that's all you see is, as a person that drives up with your car, but there will be a chain link fence with all visually
Little
impaired, cage,
Yeah.
that's, I don't know, 20 by 30 or something
And you
like
wouldn't
that.
really
with-
want that right next to your house.
Yeah,
Makes the
no,
noise,
so-
or,
Well, just the size, the impact of
yeah,
it, you know?
okay.
So, yeah, so if that, does that help you
Yeah,
with
yeah,
that?
quite a bit, yeah, sure.
So I think, and then, so then the other one is you put a bollard in the ground, and tie it to it, and then run a cable back to a power panel somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
So what else? I think you answered it, but like, I was thinking, I still call it Big Wheel, but it's the store down on South Bristol.
The country store.
Countries, they're in RA1.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, so I was concerned that we would block out some place like that.
No, and I also put RA1 because that's already kind of areas in the rural Bristol.
Adjacent to the village planning area.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Yeah. Oh, the other comment I had is, if we do refer, so the definitions you had for level 3 or commercial. And then you, in parentheses, had typically 200 to 450 volts. I would just say greater than 200 volts. And then that will take you into that larger category.
Leave it open.
Leave it open so that when BYD, if they ever get to USA. And have all these thousand volt, 1000 kW chargers, they're still in that
Yeah, they're coming to
definition.
China first, so it's really a while.
Well, they're
quick.
talking about
Oh,
it.
they're going to
So,
fulfill it in China.
well, I don't know if that's, so that's my thoughts. Anybody
Yeah,
have
that
any
sounds okay.
closing thoughts?
Good question.
Oh, go ahead.
When we talk about the pad mount transformer, they're gonna have to be where there's 3-phase power, is that correct?
Generally, yeah,
So that would limit too then.
Mhm.
A lot of areas are not gonna have 3-phase.
correct.
I just want to make sure I understood.
Yeah,
that
I'm
that's-
not aware of any level 3 chargers that aren't fed 3-phase. But that's just me.
Further requirement.
Well, it's just you need that much power.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and that's another reason why you're not really gonna see many folks putting in level 3 chargers at their house. Unless they're running like a secret supervillain base underneath it. I don't know many people who would
I
have
think-
3-phase power.
John had one more comment.
Yeah, John.
I do have a supervillain operation going on in my basement, so I might, but
I knew it.
no, couple of thoughts on what Kevin said. I'm not enough of a business person to know how to start one of these businesses, but I don't know, it doesn't sound like a good business model to have a service station that only has level 1 or maybe even level 2 chargers. So I don't know if that's a concern, but my concern is not what level the business people decide to install for their commercial application, where they're either fueling a fleet or fueling the public at large, and the implications of those activities, which, you can think about light, hours of operation, things like that do or don't fit into the place where they're proposing to have this. And so that's my concern is primarily, actually, and I think you're starting to get at it. I do see the use of commercial in there, and so commercial not being defined might be an issue. So, and the last thought is, Kevin, I don't see why we couldn't consider essentially an administrative permit level. So I want to come and put a level 1 or level 2 charger at my house. I come in, I fill out the application, just normal like anybody. And AZ has the ability to, ask me the questions that are relevant about how I'm going to do it. And he gives me an info sheet on how I do it safely or whatever, and what I need to adhere to. and signs off on it, basically, like that. I think we could have at some level, entry level, be it a single family house that wants to do it for their car or cars. Or a multifamily situation, say the apartments on Plank Road, that might want to put 3 in for their tenants' use only, not open to the general public. Lastly, as the owner of a multi-use building and family, multi-unit buildings, I could definitely see putting in a couple of chargers, and then my tenants only have use of them, but I am collecting a fee. I'm not subsidizing their electricity. They're compensating for, I'm not profiting on it, but I'm there. If they get $20 worth of electricity, they pay for it. So how does this work in the section where it says I can't collect a fee for doing that? Again, in that example, like at one of my buildings with 4 units, I might put 1 or 2 in there, and would that be an administrative level okie dokie or permit process? Either way, I wouldn't want to be banned from doing that if I don't have a public service station, but I am collecting the cost of electricity from my tenants. So there's something that we could bump into.
So I guess I question, and like I said, I'm on the fence for anything multifamily and larger impact. But when it comes to single family, even if it's just to stop in and say hi to AZ and fork over $25 to the town or whatever it is,
Oh, it's so much more.
50, well, whatever it is. I don't see any benefit there. We don't have people coming in to ask for a permit to put a entrance into their garage for a welder, for instance, or anything like that. So I think, and I can be swayed either way from multifamily further on to more impactful, but for a single family dwelling, I don't see any benefit to asking or requiring anybody to come and ask for a permit. But anyway, so you got
Yeah,
enough.
I could sleep on that myself. I mean, that raises a really good question. I'd like to think about it.
Okay, so I think we can finish up this conversation and got enough information.
Always do.
Okay.
Thank you.
More than you want, probably, right?
Never have too much information.
Thanks, AZ. Keep at it.
So next is new business. We're gonna talk a little bit about the Middlebury College student infrastructure presentation, and we're gonna fold that into a discussion with Jill Marsano as well. So
We got Jill here, and I put Jill first. on the
Yep.
agenda.
let's do it. Thank you, Jill, for taking some time to talk with us.
Oh, you're welcome. Do you want video on or off?
It's up to you.
Okay.
Thank you for coming, Jill. Mostly wanted to bring you into the planning commission to kind of give an overview of the Bristol water and sewer infrastructure. We had some Middlebury students give a presentation with some very interesting results of possibilities of what we could do with the current infrastructure. And wanted to get the input of someone who's actually working in the infrastructure in Bristol, get their perspective and kind of from the operator's view of what infrastructure is looking like in Bristol. Because the students brought up the municipal sewer system and gray water installations for houses and all these really cool ideas, but hoping to get some grounding in the operator side of things for the planning commission.
Okay, cool. I was aware of some of it, but not all of it. So they basically called me, gosh, I think it was a couple months ago now, and said, so we're doing a project wherein we want to try to figure out where more housing / possible affordable housing could be developed in Bristol and how that might be able to use the existing water and sewer. So they were asking about where are the opportunities to put more housing that could connect to the existing Bristol core sewer. To which my answer was, there really isn't the capacity there, nor is there the land anywhere near anything that would flow by gravity to that system. So it serves the Bristol core, which is really just 34 connections. And it's the downtown. So it's the town office and it's all the businesses that you see on Main Street and then the businesses that you see on Prince Lane and a couple of businesses on East Street. That's it. That's the entire plus one apartment building on South Street and the town office. So that's it. That's the whole sewer district. And so while there might be an opportunity for like a tiny bit more hydraulic capacity, once we can get the organic capacity under a bit more control on the sewer side, because we have a lot of high strength waste, kind of like pegging out our ability to take on any more wastewater to treat there. And just also, I guess I'll back up a little bit. Our wastewater treatment system is basically a large residential septic system. So it's just a collection system that consists of manholes and gravity sewer mains. There's no pumping, it's all passive. And they go down to a final manhole just before an influent structure. The influent structure can divide into two sides of the septic tanks. So there's two septic tanks that are hydraulically connected, both at the gates at the beginning of the structure and then further into the other end of the structure. And then so the solids settle in that septic tank just like they would in a residential, and then the liquids go to a splitter box and they split out to a series of 8 dosing siphon chambers that go to leach fields. So it's really just a giant home septic system, but this is, for this small set of businesses in Bristol for where there is no land at all to have any kind of wastewater on site. So, and those 8 fields are, they're switched every other year. So it's 4 on, 4 off, 4 on, 4 off. So there's that as well, but there's no official treatment besides primary settling. That's all that's there. That's not, so when people call it like a wastewater treatment facility, I just giggle because it's not. It's the most basic form of wastewater treatment that exists to my knowledge. It's just primary settling in a septic tank, effluent to a leach field, with a little bit in between. Now and that's down at the bottom of Basin Street, just if anybody wasn't aware of where it is. It's at the bottom of Basin Street, which is very much downhill. So it gets there really good. It's just a little hard to truck everything out because, you get to the top of that super steep street and you've got a very, very full sewer truck with sludge trying to get out of there and no visibility. And we've got one that can't stop or they'll lose their gears. So we like hold the stop sign for them and they just run it. So that's, that's kind of interesting. Someday I'd love a road that goes over the river and that actually goes down South Street so that we can all just keep it kind of flat. So that's the sewer system. Very basic and in my mind, quite limited in what it can take for capacity. However, if you're looking at the water system in Bristol, the treatment plant, which it is a treatment plant, the only treatment it's actually doing is adding a little bit of chlorine to the water. That's the only chemical added. The water comes from a spring, so it is groundwater. It's actually mineral water because it's coming from a spring, which is sort of great. And then it pushes up underneath the river. It goes up Basin Street, across east and up mountain, and then takes a right up Mountain Terrace, and it goes as a straight line. It doesn't follow the hiking trail. It goes as a straight line all the way up to that nice big huge metal tank that's halfway up to Bristol Cliffs. So the road that's up there is actually an access road for the water tank. It's also doubling as a hiking trail for lots and lots of people and their animals in Bristol and other surrounding areas that come to utilize that. So they know people get a little offended that I dare drive my truck up there to bring tools to do work on the tank and whatnot. And it's like, guys, it's an access road to a water system, guys. It's not just a hiking trail. So that's where, so we've got our source, which is off of South Street on Pump House Road. We've got our storage, which is up on the mountain, kind of up above Mountain Terrace. And then we have distribution, which goes, I think of it as like a plus sign, right? So it goes to just before Bristol Rescue Squad on the north end. On the south end, it goes down to the lumberyard. On the east end, it goes to Sargent's and the apartment building across from them, the multifamily unit across from them. And then on the west side, it goes to the high school and the house across from them. And it also goes down the back of Firehouse Lane down to just one connection on Lovers Lane, which is the Woodland Apartments. So when I look to see where could there be future development in Bristol, like kind of from like a where is there actually land that doesn't already have a bunch of houses on it or a bunch of roads or isn't like a super steep cliff with ledge everywhere. There's still room all about certain parts of Lovers Lane. There's still room after you go past the high school, kind of on like the left-hand side. I question what the town will do with the gravel pit once they and New Haven are kind of done using that. That's kind of a neat space that could have a future function for some kind of something. And then there's certainly North Street, as after you get kind of out of the current water service area and there's some more open fields. So kind of like between Plank and like Heffernan's, like the what is that called? Champlain Valley Plumbing and Heating. Those are the areas that I see that are close to the ends of the water system where a water system extension would probably be, it would be probable. We do have a really great water source that produces a lot of water. As we continue to replace water lines and get rid of a lot of leakage, we should actually have more available water than we do now. Because like more than half of what we're pumping is just disappearing. It's not actually getting to the houses because it's leaking in the ground in places that we cannot find, even though we do lots of leak detection. And plenty of repairs. There's just leaks that don't make a peep, and they drain so beautifully in all of this gravel and sand that we have.
Blessing and a curse.
Yeah, so like that's my thought, is that there's a lot more ability to extend the water system and reduce separation distances so that smaller lots could be possible. And then there's also an opportunity for I know I've seen it in Bristol, and I know it happens in my town of Moncton as well, as they do kind of like what they call like a PUD, where a group of houses will be built together and they'll share a group. Sorry, this kitten is insane tonight. They'll share a group septic system, right? So they'll make a septic system for 4 houses. And in the case of Bristol, oh gosh, yes, the co-op, that is way more than 4 houses. So that is a larger shared wastewater field. Again, I think it's still a relatively simple wastewater treatment system, meaning I think it's just tanks and leach fields, and the tanks get pumped out. They might have a little bit of treatment. I don't know if they have like filtration or anything like that to make it a little bit like a teeny bit of treatment, but I don't think it's definitely not a wastewater treatment facility. They don't need a pump station. Everything's flat. So when you talk about making utilities affordable, in my mind, anything that you can do the simplest way with the least amount of pumps, it's going to be the least expensive option. There's going to be less maintenance. There's going to be less breakdown. It's just going to be the simplest is the cheapest, like right up front and then long term.
Thank you.
Question?
Slim, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. You mentioned that the South Street goes to the lumber mill, like Lathrop's project, or all the way up to what was Johnson's perhaps?
No, just Lathrop's.
Just checking, thank you.
Yep, that's true. There is a little bit of land. There is a little bit of land across from that I hadn't thought of, but yes, it does go down there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anybody else? John,
Yeah, Jill, great summary of the wastewater treatment system. I have things out of 34 on that system and gotten to know it a little bit too, and that's a great description. I would hasten to add that, it does a really good job when the river is measured for E. coli several times a year. One of the measuring spots is just below the South Street Bridge, where you can imagine that the flow out of the leach field on Basin Street is going into the river that way. And it's always super clean. I don't know the exact numbers, but if the federal standard is 1,200 units per measure, we're at like 100 units per measure. And so it's very, very effective, the system we have.
That's good, because we also, June and September of each year, we do monitoring well sampling, because there's monitoring wells around the leach field. The E. coli numbers in those are really low as well, and they're even closer than the river. So I think we're super lucky because we have really well draining soils. So the water, it's called leachate, but the water that's draining through those leach fields can really just settle down. And the awesome thing about this earth is it treats water beautifully and naturally. So it goes through all these layers of the ground and it treats it and it restores it back to groundwater, which is completely clean and able to be drank. Not that there's a well there's not, just to be clear, but every other animal does go to the bathroom on the ground. So we're very fortunate to have an earth that keeps water really clean once it filters it through all of the layers of the earth.
Yeah, and I would just add that I'm doing a little project in Lincoln, part of a project where it's 5 adjacent house lots that'll be developed over a couple of years, and it's all common utilities, including well water and septic. And while there's a little bit to work out amongst the 5 owners, it works really well.
Oh,
and
yeah,
ultimately will benefit all 5 over time.
that's awesome. Because honestly, every time just one house has to have an entire well and an entire septic system, just the upfront cost in those is getting pretty unruly. So I like the idea of grouping things together and then keeping more land around them open.
Jill, is there room currently at that location for pre-treatment to be installed as well to accept more capacity? I understand costs are super limiting on that, but.
So we just actually had a call last week with, oh gosh, RCAP. So Rural Community Assistance Partners. So John, who used to be a consulting engineer, who still is a PE, is one of their service persons. And then, oh my goodness, Joshua Lockheed. So he left the drinking water capacity program at the state to work for them as well. So we've asked them, because they're like, how can we help you? And I was like, help us get free money. They just kind of giggled, but still, we have too much high strength waste in our wastewater system. And the simplest thing to do to keep it passive and to keep it inexpensive and to make it so it doesn't impact like every single business having to put in an outdoor grease trap and adding all that extra cost and extra pumping would be to put a really effective grease trap in front of between the last manhole and the influent structure, because the truck's already going there to clean the sludge out of the bottom of the septic tank. It would allow the wastewater to cool off, because when it's coming directly out of the drain of the building and going into the grease trap, or coming out of the drain of the building and going through a little teeny grease trap inside of a building, for instance, like a restaurant or whatnot, the grease is still like, it's with the water. It's melty and it's in the water. So like, how is a grease trap that's designed to have the stuff that's floating not go under? When it's warm, it's mixed in the water. We all know it. We do our dishes with hot water. We get all the grease off. It goes down the drain. Do you know, like if you picture it at your house, the grease trap doesn't even, the water and the grease don't even have time to separate. So I would love that. I just need them to, what they're gonna do is put together an asset management plan for the system, which is super simple. It's only like 15 manholes and I don't know, maybe less than a mile or a mile and a half of linear feet of sewer pipe and heat dosing site for chain bins. You know, it's like, it's pretty simple. The asset management plan is pretty simple. And if we add anything, I know somebody was wanting to do like it was a rotating type of machine that would do some type of treatment. And I'm like, okay. So I read the specifications on it. It needs power. We don't have power. It needs water. We don't have water. And it needs space. The only space that we have that's not currently filled with tanks, because it literally all is, or the one little teeny driveway is like 15 feet between the first manhole and the influence structure. That's it. That's all the space there is. So the idea of putting a heavy piece of equipment down there or building, where would you put it? They would have to. The other thing is, with the state of Vermont, if you were to want to actually put in a wastewater treatment facility, like the real deal wastewater treatment facility, you would likely want to get a direct discharge permit and go big. So anytime you do something like that, if you're replacing what you have to keep what you have live while you build what you're building. There's no space there. It doesn't exist. It's like that L that's there, it's all tanks and leach fields, except that little teeny space. So it would be really tricky because you'd have to take out of commission what you're currently using to build something new. And like, I don't know, maybe you do like a rotate your fields and just stick everything on the left instead of going 1, 3, 5, 7, you'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, and you'd leave the other side and build it over in that. But it would be getting a direct discharge permit from the state of Vermont is kind of like trying to, it's like Walmart trying to establish themselves.
Are you talking about something like a tertiary treatment plant like Virgin's has? Like,
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I run other wastewater treatment facility, like real other wastewater treatment facilities. It's many, many millions of dollars to build them. And in order to even think about building one, you need a direct discharge permit to discharge your effluent to the river.
right. I think, I don't think people would, I think there was a time in the past where we considered that, a
Mhm.
standard Virgin style, you guys all can imagine that, right? The big open
Oh, yeah.
tanks with this,
Yep.
all the treatment and the motors and the fans and the pumps and open tanks, all of that. Like that's not, I think, what people want close to town, at least,
It's so expensive. I run one in West Paulette, Vermont. They
Oh.
had to build it because I have staff that work with me. I don't go there every day. They have very high water table. So what was happening was they had, on-site septic, and then they each had a well, and their wells were getting polluted with E. coli constantly because their water table is at like 3 feet. So they kind of did a study to say, what do we do? You either put in a water system or you put in a wastewater system. You have to do something to get your separation distances. And since their wells were functioning correctly, they decided to put in a wastewater collection system and a treatment plant. So fast forward, they built that in the 80s. They did an upgrade. The upgrade they did, in my opinion, was before I was operating it, but it didn't give them anything better or newer or greater. It just added new payments and expenses. And here they are, a full wastewater treatment facility and collection system. It absolutely requires a licensed operator like myself and an employee to be there every single day to check the pump station, make sure there's nothing leaking anywhere, check all the pumps, do all the readings, do the lab work. They are dying financially, and there's nothing happening to make it less expensive to run a wastewater treatment plant. So they're like, how do we save money? How do we save money? How do we save money? I'm like, guys, this is like as cheap as it gets to run a wastewater plant, $100,000 a year. And the thing is, there's only 160 connections. So it's really expensive for the connected users. They can't get rid of it because otherwise there'd be 160 people without a house. So they're in my opinion, for them, there's a bunch of open land on the three sides, because theirs is like a Y shape. There's totally open land on through. No, it is a plus, but it's more crooked. There's open land on all the ends, but one, because one of them is New York. It's just like, get some housing down there. Go ahead, expand. They are a 40,000 gallon a day treatment plant, and they're generally treating like 7 to 8,000 gallons a day. And they have it. It's great. The effluent BOD is like 5. The TSS is like 7. Ours are like 350 and 500. So
Anybody else
There-
have any questions? So I have a couple, when you talk about BOD in their current system, I assume that's coming from restaurants.
pretty much, yeah.
So restaurants, to me at least, seem like something that's pretty important to downtown. It seems like there's a lot of vitality with downtown. So I think it's a very important thing to, I don't know if you want to call it protect, but encourage.
Yeah, it's that there's not a single owner of a business there that's going to be like, I really want to spend 30 grand and put in better pre-treatment. So it's like we have to come in and regulate it and say, I have a way to show what you're discharging, which I don't have single point. I have a way to make you add pre-treatment and a way to show that it's actually working. So we're trying to figure out the mechanisms to do that. And that's kind of what I was tasking the persons, the two people from RCAP with, was then they're like, you know, we're not designers, we can't design for you, but we can try to help you find some funding and, you know, make a, you know, 5,000 foot view, do a little bit of 5,000 foot view planning. Yep.
I have one more thing, John, before, and then I'll give it back to you. When we did our last set of zoning regs, we adjusted down along through Plank Road, we call it what, VR?
Residential?
Village, so we increased the density down through there, which, and then, so I don't know, I didn't hear you say anything about down Plank Road as far as expanding the water system. And I remember at one time when the landfill was operating down on Burpee Road, they were gonna turn it into a C&D. There was a discussion to run a water line down Burpee Road to pick up all the wells along to there. So I'm just kind of interested in, you know, I got the impression from you, there's a lot of capacity on the water side. And
We're close. If we can get the new water lines in and really hunker down on the leakage, we'll have like another 200,000 gallons a day available.
yeah. So I don't know if there's any strategy to match what we did for density down along Plank Road with a water system, I guess is what my point or question is.
Yeah, so right now it ends at the last hydrant on the left. If you're coming from town and you take a left down Plank Road, I'm trying to think. The house is blue. The dog is mean. There's 2 of them. And on the right hand side, there's like these stacked rock structures. So it's like you see this big, beautiful white house, and then you see kind of a longer driveway. The longer driveway with the house that way back, that's the last connection on the right. And the last connection on the left is the blue one that has the hydrant kind of just to the right side of their driveway. So that ends there. There is some open land there. I just always kind of assumed it was farmland, so I didn't think of that as developable. But yeah, it could go that way too.
Okay, thank you. John, you had some other thoughts?
Just a response to Jill, you had mentioned like, oh, you could, if you had certain means, like measure particular properties outfall and know the BOD and whatever
Mhm.
you needed to maybe account for technologically. if you were to want or need those tools, wouldn't that be something that would be done through the sewer regulations or bylaws? I'm not sure of the right term, but like something that select board would, as acting as the sewer directors or district,
Mhm.
they would do that through their legislation, right? They're sort of,
Yes-ish. They're looking for, we were supposed to get a set of standard, well-written sewer ordinance documents with consideration to organic loading from the state. They told us 2 years ago that they were going to create this because they noticed that like of the 250 small systems in the state of Vermont and a couple of the larger ones that nobody had a real way to measure and regulate and charge for. Because you could do surcharges and the surcharges could help pay for the changes. You could do mandates and you could require that pretreatment be added because of the type of business and not even measure it and just be like, you know what, you're XYZ. We know that XYZ has the ability to be this particular BOD and TSS, therefore you must have pretreatment designed by some type of licensed professional and present it to us. And I mean, that would be kind of the dreamy way. That's what's happening in the larger systems like Shelburne and Burlington. And
is that your attempt as manager to like more equitably spread the cost to where the problems are? I mean, some people on the system have very clean effluent, some don't, and
that's why I'm saying, like, I don't believe, just because I do run sewer systems that are primarily residential in other areas, the influent BOD and TSS are like 150 and 100. So what we're getting of our effluent is characteristic of 3 times what it is on a mostly almost completely residential system. And then we've got some that are a mix of residential and commercial, and they're just so much lower. So
and you account for that just by having a few very, very dense contributors?
I do think I would guess that there's like 6 to 8. Yep, out of 34 that would need to do pretreatment. If we just did kind of like a generalization and a requirement by business and discharge type, we could do that. If we wanted real science, we'd have to start putting in structures to be able to get individual samples, and we don't have that. The manholes they are adjoining manholes that have multiple flows coming into them. It's tricky. It's not like we're trying to face it now that it's an issue because we weren't aware that it would be when it was built. So now it's like going backwards and trying to figure out how to add in the things that are missing because now it's an issue.
So
Yeah, when they first
can't,
started. Sorry, please go ahead.
No, you can't monitor at the outlet point from the building?
They're closed sewer lines, so no.
Okay.
You can't open a sewer main.
The way it was allotted when it was first created, whatever it was, 92 or something, they went around to all the people who were going to be connecting to it and said, well, how much do you want out of the total volume of, what we got? A lot. And so places like Mary's Restaurant, which was on Main Street, then grabbed like, I don't know, 1,200 gallons. And, the other some property owners were like, well, I want to keep my bill down, so I'm going to only claim 100 gallons of that. And that their bill was based on that. And then places like Mary's, they were like, we're a restaurant, we have 50 seats or whatever. They claimed, 1,200 gallons. And so their bill was high. So there was nothing scientific about it at that point. It was just people sort of picking their rate,
Oh my. I believe it's a little bit different now. I mean, people have allocations, and if they go over their allocation, they get billed more. So there are like the water meters are the wastewater meters, because if it goes in, it goes out.
If anybody's interested, maybe Kevin, I'll offer these to the Historical Society. I don't know, but somehow I happen to have all these like found, like everything that a property owner got who was gonna go on that system at the beginning. I have that folder, like maps and descriptions and right of ways and blah, blah.
I'll take that folder.
It's actually pretty interesting,
I'm
Was it
sorry.
was it in the 90s? Because I think that the sewer system was built around like 90, somewhere between 93 and 95.
I want to say it was exactly in that period when it was sort of thought about, engineered and dug and operated. It was a couple of 3-year process right around then.
Oh my God, where was the wastewater going before that? It's all parking lot.
Everybody had their own on their property. And if you can imagine downtown
Wow.
with all the block commercial buildings with 0 yards, what was going on, it was scary.
That had to be
Oh,
gross.
that one with the river.
Scary. I walked you through. If you want to come do a little quick walk, I'll show you where everything was.
Oh man, I can just imagine there's just no land there. Oh, gross, gross, gross.
So I think we'll just wrap this conversation up a little bit.
Please.
And thanks so much, Jill. I think it was really informative, at least for me, and I'm sure most everybody else. So
You're
thank you
welcome.
for taking some time with us.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Yeah, if you guys have more questions, and I'm going to continue to encourage AZ to feel that you guys can be as complicated as you want to be when people are applying for things, to take into consideration what they're doing with water. Just because sometimes it's a bit surprising, the things that come to us when they're applying for it, that like it'd be super cool to know about it sooner.
I actually have a couple people I'm sending your way, Jill,
Okay,
who
love
want
it.
connections, and I said, I don't know about that. I'm gonna send you to Jill.
Well, cool. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'll be in touch.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Thanks. So that leads us to reviewing the Middlebury student presentation.
Yeah.
Is I know I was less than professional and came in at the end of it. I don't know, did everybody else see it? The presentation to college students there?
Yes.
And then unfortunately, you're new to it.
Well, I watched some of the.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I have a sense. I didn't watch all of it. But I have a sense.
I do have it up here. If we just want to review it. My kind of goal with putting this discussion on here was, after having Jill speak to y'all and kind of getting an understanding of what actually is happening in Bristol from an operator's perspective, going back and looking at what the students kind of dreamt up with their bright eyes and bushy tails of what's possible, and then kind of tying that into what's currently going on with the town plan regulations, kind of starting a conversation on that. As infrastructure is necessary for development.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, AZ, this is more of a town plan discussion as opposed to a zoning reg discussion.
Yeah.
Which is gonna be here before we know it.
Yeah, so opening a door to the most critical part of development, which is you need water, power, sewer, Wi-Fi, if you're fancy. But that's, yeah. Guess biggest things for the town plan, talking about cluster septic systems, and I know that planning and developments were thought a lot about, and how do we encourage that in the town plan, and capture infrastructure. There's a whole section on utilities, and the soil suitability, and where we have water coming from, the solar field that we have. I feel like there's a lot of really cool opportunities in Bristol, but how do we want to encourage that moving forward with a new town plan? Is there anything that like,
I mean, updated.
yeah,
Not new.
yeah, updated. We're not scrapping it. We're taking what we got and changing it a little bit. But that's kind of what I wanted to bring up, especially after getting an operator's perspective of
Limitations.
limitations. Yes, yes. To put it frankly, and I think the student presentation kind of brought up some interesting ideas.
I mean, even with just use of septic, whether it's an individual or it's like what John's doing with several residents. I mean, it's going to be vital to encourage, I think anyway, the use of gray water and to separate out gray water from black water.
I don't believe that's allowed in the state. And
Really?
drain, anything that comes from a drain is treated as wastewater. Yep.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed students.
So a single person with a home, they can't separate their gray water out if they want to.
Not according to the state regulations for wastewater.
So that whole point, that all of the work they did on that idea of gray water is just a waste of time because we can't do it.
Not a waste of time. They got a
Well, I
grade.
think,
Well, I mean,
The state rules can
that's
be
not what I
modified.
meant.
well, I don't wanna
No.
sway that,
I
I
mean-
don't wanna push in here, but I think there's. When I was in school, which we were still using stone tablets, gray water, separation of sanitary and gray water was the way. And for some reason over the years, at least the state has gone away from that. It's not that that practice has gone away from various areas in the US. It's just what this state is looking at right now. I think the thing is we need to also look and consider maybe they're being somewhat visionary. And maybe it's something that should be worked towards, maybe, I guess. So I wouldn't flat out say you can't do it because of the regs today, as opposed to considering options that may be coming back or maybe being instituted tomorrow type thing. Is that fair? Or not? You're not.
And the state
So
has
then-
to say over that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Ultimately, no matter what we do, you know. And that's just kind of the way it is, but there's probably ways to not just throw it out as being a bad idea or anything, but ways to say incentivize or encourage alternate methods for, you know, increased housing capacity or something to that effect. I don't know.
Is it even talked about in the wastewater circles at the state level?
I don't know. I don't hear too much of what the planning or the TAP committees or anything like that are talking about.
John?
Yeah, you know, if you wanted to send a message to the State House, we could always put something in a town plan that said we urge the state to consider this or that approach, or this or that policy, or this or that technology. And be aspirational in that way, but oh gosh, what was the other thing? Totally lost my train of thought there. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, I'm looking into the town plan, focusing on infrastructure of where would we want to take the vision of Bristol's infrastructure for the future town plan, future people that are moving to Bristol, residents that are living here, people who are moving back, a lot of folks. But when the Conservation Commission came to give a presentation, they talked about updating the wildlife corridor maps, and think that's something that can be updated as well as the soil suitabilities. Getting the most up-to-date information on what we have existing, and as Jill gave us some information today on what we can't do, and how to move forward from there.
I
John,
did, for my other thing, I remember back in the day in '88, I was a reporter in Randolph, and there were stories going around about people wanting composting toilets in their homes, you know, like as their main toilet or toilets in their new homes. And the state was like, no, can't do it. Now, that was a long time ago. I don't know what the status of composting toilets. Could you get a single family home permit approved by the state if you had only a composting toilet? I don't know, but you know, nothing prevents us from saying that aspirationally in our town plan. We would encourage or favor, or at least look at, you know, composting toilets if that were a solution. You know, I don't know, but does anybody know where the like, can you have a
I
compost
think it's,
toilet in
I
your
think
home?
it's still illegal to have one, or it's not
Oh,
allowed.
No,
No, I have
No?
a friend who owns property in Williston and she has a composting toilet. However, they do her dig a septic that she doesn't use.
yeah, I have
Yeah.
I have a
So, I
friend,
mean, you know, if you want to get permission to do it, then they're probably not going to give it to you. But if you just do it, I mean, you know,
there is, you can get a permit for an alternative system, or not alternative, but there are options for if you're looking to not go with a traditional septic field or septic tank with leach fields. The state does have options for that, which maybe suggests a changing of the tide. I have not seen an alternative septic system permit to come from the state to my office of anyone who's applied for one and gotten one.
Not here because of the gravel.
Yeah, the gravel's too
cheap
nice.
To not build something
Yeah,
different than that.
Yeah.
It's possible the banks won't loan you money on a house that has that on as its primary system, just like they won't loan a lot of people money on a house if it only has 2 bedrooms. So that's, you know, it may be structural in that direction, not in any other direction. I don't know. Anyway, interesting question.
I see this stuff, any of this discussion in terms of like specifics on systems or anything else, if it's not directly related to a community system, then it should just be kind of aspirational. If when we talk about it in the plan of encouraging cluster development to handle without the capacity of a municipal system to be able to handle it there in a shared system to minimize the overall impact or something like that, instead of getting into specifics of systems or anything like that.
Well, excuse me, that wouldn't be aspirational, then, like, community co-housing here, they actually have done this,
Yeah.
So you have, that to me all seems like the best practicable idea that we might have to have less expensive, more buildings. I mean, why not? We have lots of water and we have great soil.
and Jill,
Could work out so much.
and Jill sort of reinforced that both on the water, domestic water as well as the sanitary, is the cost to develop a single lot is so prohibitively expensive that when you can start sharing those services, your slice is getting smaller to develop that.
We could probably have one driveway. I don't know what a driveway costs to get all
Yeah.
engineered these days, but I bet it's not awfully a lot.
it's not fun.
No, yeah, I'm sure.
So I think. Anybody else have any more commentary?
Well, I can't help it, but as long as we're talking about shared infrastructure like that, remember that like you can have shared what they call district heating too in places, dense places. That starts to make sense. Like right now, it does make sense in downtown. 3 of my buildings are heated by boilers that in one building heat a total of 3 buildings. And that really starts to gain efficiencies. It's good all around. And I have enough capacity in that system. If I could figure out a way to meter the BTUs, I could heat both the commercial buildings on Main Street on either side of the building where those boilers are, have that much capacity. The question is, and it's technically possible, it's an administrative hurdle, but, there are other ways to share infrastructure like that. If you want to help landowners keep it efficient, you know, we could encourage that in various ways too, I hope.
Okay, so like I said, this is a great overview. I think the work that the Middlebury College students did, even though it may not be, excuse me, stuff that we can do today or tomorrow. I mean, it certainly is great fodder when we start talking about our town plan and looking at some of that aspirational stuff. This is totally different, but my cousin lives in just south of Fort Myers. Not Santa. But anyway, their effluent from their wastewater treatment system is run out to another set of a distribution system for people to use to water their lawns.
Huh. Huh.
That's how they get rid of their effluent. Anyway, so enough of that. So I
Second set
think,
of pipes.
just don't get the pipes confused, no. So let me see, we're on to administrative matters now, and I guess the first item is to approve the minutes of February 18th.
I would move that we accept the minutes.
Second that.
So John moved, Slim seconded. Any discussion?
Good minutes.
Carol does a great job. So
They're really good minutes.
so hearing no discussion or corrections, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Okay, moves. Next thing is the zoning report by AZ.
It's been a crazy month. I've approved 2 permits. Mostly right now it's a lot of DRB. Well, there's 1 subdivision with the DRB right now. I had 1 applicant reach out to me and tell me that he might be withdrawing his application to the DRB because of nothing to do with the town, but to do with state access. And the state told him that in order to get the access road for his subdivision, he had to change it a lot, and that was just something that he wasn't really interested in doing. I haven't heard from him if he really wants to pull out of the application, but there's a lot of people interested in subdividing and getting new lots and bringing more opportunities for housing in, which is really awesome. Seen a lot of 2-lot subdivisions recently of just people breaking off land for family members. And that's been pretty slow. I was on vacation last week, so that was nice. That's my report.
Thank you.
Sunshine will bring it on.
What was that?
Sunshine will probably bring a rush to your door.
Yeah, I might have to like get a little ticket thing like at the DMV.
Thank you. So the next item is discussing Act 181.
Yeah, so this is pretty exciting for people. Well, I was excited about it because land use planning is super cool. Act 181 is a bill that reforms Act 250. This went into effect last June, but the regional planning commissions are bearing the brunt of this act. Mostly want to focus on a certain element of this. Yeah, this one. So what Act 181 is doing is taking Act 250 from project-based to location-based. And what that means for municipalities is that if you're within a certain location, Act 250 can have exemptions, and that would be great for developers who are trying to build more housing. And this is looking at some breaking out the tiers here. Tier 1A and Tier 1B are gonna be the densest parts of towns and cities. And then Tier 3 is a little bit more jurisdiction based. But the biggest exciting ones are Tier 1 and Tier 1A and Tier 1B, as these are really gonna open up possibilities for development moving forward. But the biggest thing about Act 181 is the future land use areas. This is the responsibility of the regional planning commissions to facilitate this move. I wanted to bring it up to the planning commission though, because the regional planning commissions are going to be coming to work with municipal select boards and planning commissions to create these future land use area maps. And I wanted to show an example of what they look like. It's kind of similar to our zoning maps, or the village planning area. This is an example for Virgins, and while this is at the regional level, they're looking to do a lot more of how do we connect municipalities to with planning. As you can see, Virgins is only the square mile that it is, so its planned growth areas kind of spread out to the neighboring towns. And I think it's gonna be really impactful for land development throughout Vermont as we connect municipalities, as we all grow bigger as towns and cities. And wanted to bring it up to the planning commission. It's just like, this is a cool thing going on. Act 250 got reformed, and the regional planning commissions are going to be coming to do some work. But I think this is going to be a really great opportunity for Bristol to gain some possibilities for development, mostly for the residents and developers here, but something to keep in mind as the planning commission, as the regional planning commission is doing this work. It will trickle down to y'all. I highly recommend reviewing these slides on your own. It's a really informative presentation, but I wanted to highlight some of the key elements there.
Any questions for AZ?
Are these slides in the folder?
Yes, yeah. And I'll email you the folder link if you didn't already.
I got it.
Oh.
You were on top of it.
Yes, yes. Awesome. Any other questions? John?
Not so much a question as an observation, maybe maybe a question implied too. I did read these slides. I kind of read them a couple times because they're dense. I mean, they're dense with jargon, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just that planners use planning jargon, just like other people use other kinds of jargon, and it's dense. It's hard to really grasp what's being said or what the impacts of these changes are, sort of what's at stake, what's different from how we're doing it to what this is supposed to produce. And I'm open to what I think it's supposed to produce. To me, it's intended to expedite housing development and other kinds of development, and I'm for that. I'm in that business, so that's cool. And more density, and I'm definitely for that. I just hope that in all this, and I didn't see it in the slides when I went through them, I didn't hear much mention of it, but I'm all right with the density coming and with having more development outside of established town and village areas and that sort of thing. I just want to make sure that when we do it as a board here locally, that we protect our community and our people and our residents and our character here by ensuring that density we may not be able to hold off, whether we want it or not is immaterial, I think, at this point. Let's make it fit. So let's think about the quality of life issues that we might be able to influence and how they're done here. Light, sound, traffic, noise. Those Those
Yeah.
simple things. That's our role in this. I don't know, when you read it, you may be as dazzled as I was by the lingo.
Uh.
I don't want to get lost our role in it. And I think a lot of this is going to take some of our role out, which is we're going to get the development that's coming, kind of whether we like it or not. And I think we can like it. And I just want to make sure that we don't give up anything locally in terms of shaping it in a way that we feel as a group and as a community fits with the good stuff we have now. And
Yeah.
that's my old saw, so I'll shut up right there. But
Okay, thank you.
I will, because I hear what you're saying, and with Act 181, while it's an Act 250 reform, it's not reforming local zoning regulations. It has no impact on conditional use. So if someone wanted to put in a large development, they would have exemptions from Act 250, but they would not have exemptions from local zoning. So those protections do still remain in place. It just removes kind of a hurdle.
right. But if we don't have those protections in the first place, there's nothing to remove locally. So I'm just saying that there's ways to anticipate the development that's definitely going to come as a consequence of this law. And let's shape it in a good way, positive way.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, we'll move on to item D, organizational meeting. So I just want to bring up that next meeting, April 15th, is our organizational meeting. We will be electing officers. And it is the one time of year that we can review our policies and procedures if anybody desires to do that. So we'll get that factored into the next set of agenda and the preparation packet with the particularly policies and procedures, so people have a chance to look at that and then take it from there, I guess. Any questions or comments about that?
One, if we could get that policies and procedures and also the updated or whatever we get together for the EV discussion, if we could get those out as soon as possible to maybe have a week or 2 weeks or however, as much time as possible to go through those, so we're as ready as possible to take action
Absolutely.
Is
and
that
handle that stuff.
Is that reasonable for you, AC?
Yeah.
Okay,
Now that I'm not going on vacation.
so
Anything's
we'll have those
possible.
out 2 weeks, give everybody 2 weeks to take a look at them.
Yeah,
Let me look at the policies and procedures and make sure that I did my job and made it the most recent one based on what actions we had. I think we had some actions last year.
Yeah, tweaked it a little bit.
Yeah, so let me make sure we got the right rep for that.
that's good.
Okay, so the next thing is public comment. Any public comment? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Rob, motion, anybody second?
Second.
Melissa seconds, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Your hand.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Or abstaining? Okay, thank you very much. Good meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Good night.